This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, the meeting will come to order. We have the minutes up. They were in the shared folder. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion. Jay?
Motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This is good, because if somebody was online. Courtney,
I'm abstaining as
You
well.
can still read the minutes.
Who abstained?
I'm abstaining because I was there.
Okay,
I wasn't here either, so.
okay, so we have five though. We have five. You got.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
You can still vote on the minutes if you read them.
Because everyone's, all the board members are there, we don't have to
One of
do.
those
It
crazy.
was a little hard though to be like, I approve this. I have no idea what was said, but sure. I mean, I don't know.
Just the very late transmission of the account balances.
I'm gonna share that with everybody right now. We're gonna go to account balances.
Nice kitchen.
Account
balances, double clicked it.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so is that coming through okay? I'll make it a little bigger. We see it all? Maybe I have to go down one. Why can't I just do something a little bigger and not go up to 150? Say it jumps to 150.
You can type
Anybody
it.
know how to, where do
You
you?
can type in.
Right, just type in any value in that.
Oh, right here?
Right there,
Yeah.
Okay,
just
thank
type
you.
whatever you want.
See what 140 does.
Let's just scroll a little bit.
You scroll over. I think we're good.
Okay, we see it all? All
There
right,
you go.
Yes.
There.
Thank you, Dan.
you're welcome. So Jamie got an update from, our auditor. They had a problem last time with KVS. Remember, we moved the 1.25 million to Old Town Hall construction, and that was approved by the city council, so they're good to go. And now it's in our accounts officially. And next month, when she does March, because it was just approved this February, it'll show up in the Old Town Hall construction account. Other than that, we have, where do we see how much is left? You said.
So in the middle section, current fiscal year appropriations, fund balance as of 2/28.
Okay, so we have no money in open space, 48 cents.
48 cents.
And historic preservation with 18, and we have 116,690 in affordable housing. That's because we used open space and historic preservation already this year. That's why we used historic preservation for the 255 way back. We moved for city space and open space. There was some money needed for Mount Town North. Is that it?
Mountain North, and the non-tech park pool.
And it just happened to be exactly what we needed, minus 48 cents.
If you look, you'll see that we spent 114,990 from open space. But if you read across, the non-tech park pool total was 190.
Where's
So you're don't scroll.
Oh, right here.
So the 55 came out of open space and 134 came out of the undesignated.
And Mount Tom North it needed 59. That's how those projects for this year.
We just left the 48 cents in just to make, so we only have to deal in dollars. Is that why?
Because otherwise it was gonna be a weird dollar amount.
52 cents from the other one.
Yeah.
Didn't wanna do that. That's fine. Just trying to figure out.
Hey, every penny is taxpayer money.
That's right.
There you go.
So I will be asking later on in this meeting, and I'll bring this back up, to talk about moving some money into affordable housing account, because we have huge projects coming our way. But I won't bring that up now. That's not on the agenda until after Beacon. So Courtney, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. I'm Courtney Coslow from Beacon Communities. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, has everybody read the stuff in the folder?
Yep.
So we've read the application, so you can give us a brief summary, if you will. And I understand from Jamie, you might want to consider a loan rather than a grant. So talk about that.
Great. Yeah, we'll do. So you all may know and you've read that Treehouse is a wonderful intentional community owned by the Treehouse Foundation. And it was developed and is managed by Beacon Communities. So there are 60 total units there. 12 of them are 3, 4, and 5 bedroom townhouses for families who've adopted kids out of the foster care system. And the balance are age restricted 1 bedroom units with families or households who've agreed to mentor the children who live there. It is primarily all affordable, deed restricted, or a handful of market rate units that are there. It was built in 2006, and one of the main funding sources for affordable housing is called low-income housing tax credits. There's a federal and a state program for that. And every 15 years, you have the opportunity to reinvest in the development and refinance it. So we're about year 16 or 17 right now. And looking to do that, partially to do some capital needs and some upgrades, and I'll talk a little bit more about the scope of the work. Also, though, because we do need to refinance and restructure, right now it's very challenging to be able to pay the mortgage. So this new approach does take out new low-income housing tax credit equity, but we'll be able to pay off the debt and put Treehouse in a much stronger financial position going forward, which is obviously what we want to have happen there. From a scope perspective, we're taking really excited about the approach of a deep energy retrofit and electrification. So we'll be taking down the existing siding, holding it aside, hoping to reuse as much of it as we can, expecting at least 50% of it, wrapping the building in continuous air barrier, additional exterior insulation, putting back on new siding, new triple pane windows, new doors, and then new mechanical systems that are all electric, including hot water and energy recovery ventilators, which provide fresh air in and out, conditioned air. So it comes in the winter warmer from the air that's going out. It kind of exchanges that and filters the air. So it will be a very good indoor air quality. We'll do some improvements on the interiors of a handful of units and some site improvements to address some water ponding that happens. We'll also do the same approach to the existing community building and the maintenance shed or the maintenance building as well.
Can I ask you before you go on? Are you renovating every building in the Treehouse area?
Correct.
So all of the buildings. That's why
all of the buildings that are part of the Treehouse at Easthampton Meadows, not to be confused with the single family homes that are adjacent, that are not part of, that are.
No, so that's why it's costing $26 million. That's exactly. A lot of money. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We've already been awarded a $750,000 in funds from a statewide program for deep energy retrofits of affordable housing. We're one of 2 developments in the state who've been awarded that, which is a great indicator that then the DHCD, the state's housing department, will likely fund us for the balance, in addition to the other gap funding like the CPA funds. We'll apply for that at the next round that DHCD has for funding, which we expect to be in September. So if we were to get funded in that round, we would expect then to be in construction about a year from now, maybe a little bit more than a year. And we noted in the application, the $200,000 from the CPA fund, while it's a small portion of the actual total development cost, is a very key funding source. DHCD does require, in order to get access to all of the tax credits and soft funds that they provide, that you need to show a local match, and the CPA would provide that for us. I think that's my kind of short summary. Is there anything else specific I could describe or questions answer?
Accessibility is primarily the 3 homes that you have as accessible units.
Correct. We will be redoing the kitchens and baths and all of the fully accessible units to make sure they're up to today's code, and we'll be addressing some grade change. It's a really hard clay out there, and some of the grades are no longer in compliance on the walks up to units and out to parking areas and walkways. So we'll address that as well.
And what's your timeline for? Well, let me go back to whether you want a grant or a loan. Can you talk to that? And I want to tell everybody, we've done this before where Jamie's indicated there's precedence for loaning money rather than just giving them a grant over time.
Can I clarify on that?
Yeah.
It was for when we used housing rehab projects, we put in deferred payment loans, which they're essentially loans where over the course of 15 years, 1/15 gets forgiven every year. And so essentially it's a grant, but we call it a loan. It's not a traditional loan where the city gets paid back. We've never done a loan where we've had.
It's a forgivable.
I was just gonna say that, forgivable, right? Yeah.
Well, and let me actually clarify, because I used the word forgivable in an original email exchange I had with Jamie, but I need to clarify. It's not actually we can't call it a forgivable loan. So it's kind of funny. You're like, oh, we'll give you money. Here's a grant. And we're saying, no, please give a loan. Like it seems a little counterintuitive, I know. And the development underlying is owned by the Treehouse Foundation, which is a nonprofit. However, there are, in order to get access to low-income housing tax credits, we have to create an LLC, which is a for-profit corporation, which cannot receive grants. In addition, it creates tax credit concerns and problems for the tax credit. It has tax implications that do not work in conjunction with the low-income housing tax credits, which we sell to other investors, and they have problems when we have grant funding come in. And so we need what we would like. We could work with a grant if we had to. It causes a lot of problems on our end that we would work out. But preferably, this would be a 42-year loan that would have 0% interest and payable at the completion. And at that point, we'd be happy to have it forgiven. So it kind of acts like a grant. I wrote to Jamie too, if that time period is too long, other ways we've gotten around this with other funding sources that perhaps can't have a 40-year term on a loan. We'd write the loan agreement for a shorter term, 15 or 20 years, but then would ask, and I sent Jamie an example of this, for a letter saying that you will extend those in increments of however long up to that 42 years. And that gets the tax credit investors comfortable.
Can I just add something as the affordable housing developer in the room that can kind of add to this, is that the structure of the deal requires that the tax credit equity providers are getting depreciable costs. So the loan is part of that depreciation. And so,
sorry, can you say that again?
So they have to, as an equity person putting in cash, when they get their tax credits, they need to have certain things that are depreciable.
Okay.
And as a loan, it counts as being depreciable. If it's a grant, it causes complexities in their financial modeling. So it really is driven by the tax credit piece of it. I'll also add that most of the DHCD soft debt that most projects utilize are also structured in the same way. They're all structured as loans with a certain specific term, depending on what that program is. So it's very typical it's very common for things to be structured this way in affordable housing developments. It has all to do with the tax code, the IRS tax code, and how the tax credit investors are able to sort of calculate their costs. So
common and good in your view.
I mean, I'll just say it's common. There are people making money off of affordable housing, and I don't want to get onto that, that soapbox, but it's how deals are it's very common for deals to be structured this way. And a lot of the sources are going to be structured this way. So it wouldn't be that the city's money is going to be an oddity in the deal structure. It's going to be consistent with the other sources coming into the deal.
Okay.
Is that okay, Courtney, for me to
That's
jump in?
perfect. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Oh,
Can you hear me?
I couldn't for a moment, but now I can.
One, I don't want to go longer than 20 years because I'm assuming, Jamie, you could confirm this, there's staff time involved every time we have to deal with this yearly. No?
There isn't anything that will come up at all. It'll be 0% interest and not due until the,
We don't have to supervise this loan in-house during the period of the term?
Typically, no. I mean, I wouldn't see it. I mean, the other, and I don't want to get into the weeds of Courtney's deal, but the other thing that we've done is that CPA money comes in as a sponsor loan, and then the sponsor loans it into the deal.
Okay.
so that's how, when I said we'll deal with it otherwise, that would be how we would get the grant. We would have to go to a nonprofit. We would loan it in. We do have issues though, getting into a little bit on the weeds on the tax credit deals. When you're doing a second transaction, there's something called related parties where the first entity can't be connected to the second entity too much. And if it's Treehouse Foundation in both deals, it just gets complex.
Yep.
Well,
But
Jess,
figure it out.
let me say this. This is going to take probably an extra month to get through because we have to confirm what everybody's saying.
Mhm.
Number one, if 40 years is that typical? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's sources that are 40-year loans in deals.
In these deals?
Well, and often, and I don't know what their term of affordability intent is with this project, but if you've got a project that's in perpetuity of affordability of 99 years, what difference does it make what term?
As long as the city doesn't have to deal with it every year for 40 years. Right?
I don't,
That's my concern because
Yeah.
I'll get pushback on that. And I also know that because this is a loan, there's probably some legal requirements of our city attorney.
well, Courtney, wouldn't this get codified into the affordable housing restriction?
If the city of Easthampton is a part of the mass docs or is willing to take part in that, it would be taken care of by the same attorney that closes on the DHCD deal. And that is paid for out of the development budget of Treehouse, not directly from this.
Right, but the loan language would be codified in the restriction, right? So there's like a permanent, is that true? Is that where it would be located in terms of the loan docs or?
Assuming that the city is a party to the mass docs, that they're, and is that Jamie, do you know if that's, or?
Jamie doesn't know what she's
I
talking
know
about.
that we've done mass docs before, but I don't know
You wouldn't want to do anything but mass docs.
But also I know that the grant contract we have the CPA grant contract or loan contract that's separate from mass docs.
Mhm.
So that would still take some sort of legal.
So when we've used CPA money, the only legal entity that the city has to have is they can have their city attorney participate in the closing calls. The city staff does not have to participate.
Right.
And as long as your city attorney okays whatever is in the affordable housing restriction is okay with the language in that, there shouldn't be much for the city staff to be doing.
But the city attorney does have to get involved at some point.
If you choose.
So let me go through the timeline here. I'm going to probably put this out for a vote next month. I want people to think about this. That's normally what we do with these large applications. Does that work for you? Because if we vote in April, yes, to a loan, 40 years, then it has to go before the city council. And it has to be approved by the city council. But in the meantime, between now and then, Jamie's going to have to do some research on everything that Jess is saying, city attorney wise. And if our city attorney has to get involved, there's a little cash there, which I don't mind paying. We just need to know what that'll be. Part of the,
Well, it gets paid by the developer. It's not paid by the city.
it's not paid by,
No,
for our
it's paid-
city attorney?
If we have to get an opinion or.
If you have to get an
we have-
opinion or something like that,
Oh,
but
we
I'm
need to
talking
create
about
a new-
closing, if any review of those closing documents. are
No,
paper.
I think we're in between. So
Okay,
this is
all
like a contract between the city and Beacon before, because otherwise,
we always have grant agreements. Let me
right,
jump
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So now we have to have a loan agreement.
I see.
And whatever that loan agreement is, Jamie's gonna want city attorney opinion on it.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't know what goes into a loan
Right.
agreement in terms of how do we structure it so it is actually a loan that's forgiven after 42 years versus a loan that's repayable, and want to make sure that we're not gonna,
Yeah, that makes
me
sense.
thinking that I can pretend to be a lawyer is not a good.
So there's a little money there. So given that, my thinking is if we approve it on April 1st and Jamie can get this loan agreement to the city attorney and say what's going on, what I would like, and I'm gonna ask Jess for a favor, if you can both email Jamie the details you just talked about so that Jamie can ask the right questions of the city attorney or answer the city attorney's questions. What am I doing? He's gonna say, here's a loan agreement. What do we need to put in this? In other words, Jess and Courtney, what do we need to put in this is a CPA agreement. It's nothing to do with the final agreement with the city. It's a CPA agreement. We always do a grant agreement.
I'm talking about the one that's the agreement between the city and Beacon,
Okay.
separate from.
Well, we have CPA grant funding, so we're not gonna do that. You're talking about whatever has to be done. Let me start over. Whatever has to be done prior to the April meeting, Jamie needs some information to pass on to the city attorney. You okay with that?
Yeah.
So that we can have the proper document before us to approve in April. Does that make sense, everybody?
It does.
Once that's done, then it goes to the city council for the May meeting, May 1st, the first meeting in May, I hope, approval. Then it's up to the city and you to work out the details after that. But I can't go before the city council and I don't want to go before this committee unless we have our ducks in a row with regard to something I've never dealt with, and that's this kind of a loan. It may have been done before, which if you have any precedents, you could look at.
But I mean, there are housing rehab loans, which are they're very, the agreements are incredibly different. They're 15 years and.
Courtney, do you have an example from maybe another deal that you've done of this? And maybe you could send that as an example and feel free to, black out any
Sure.
Meetings and-
names.
Yes,
But-
I could work to find something that another municipality has done.
Yeah, for one of your other deals. I think that would be helpful. And then we can all then the city has an example at least to be working off of.
So the reason we have to do this is to solve the tax credit problems. You have to become a for-profit entity in order to have, it's so convoluted, I can't believe it. Why can't we just give you money?
Let me just put it this way. You can't get a tax credit if you're a nonprofit.
Because you're not paying any taxes. Light dawns over the Marblehead here.
So you have to become an LLC and a privately taxable entity so that somebody can take the tax credits, the credits on taxes.
And also to clarify, just if it's of interest, it's not Beacon who takes those tax credits. We actually get them. We apply for an allocation from the state. They give them to us and we sell them to an investor who then gives us that equity and they take the tax credits.
Writing all that down so the city attorney understands it, he'll probably understand it a lot faster than I just did. So
Sure.
Write all that down so that they understand the reason we're doing this is the tax credit, the investor. We have to be for profit because you can't be nonprofit and you're not paying any taxes. I understand it now. It took a while, but that way Mark is going to say, oh yeah, this is easy. And doesn't cost us as much if it's kind of laid out for them.
Is there a structure chart that you've already put together for this deal that maybe you could send for the attorney to understand just how the entities work?
There isn't yet because we're trying to figure out some anti-churning third party how it's going to all work out. But
Our meeting in April she needs to get this pretty soon because Mark is probably going to be busy. She needs to know what to ask Mark, etc. I don't mind doing this, right?
you know when that date is?
I don't know what you're doing yet, but
I don't know what I'm doing and it is Yeah.
It's confusing.
I guess once the city council approves funding, then the city can't pay until we have a contract in place. And that contract is the one you saying under the mass docs, is that correct?
So the affordable housing restriction. So the money probably, again, it's not my deal. So I don't, let Courtney speak to it, but.
Well, I just want to make sure that the CPA approving this loan should have some opinion from the city attorney, go ahead and do this, it's okay.
Okay.
I want that. Do we all agree?
Yes.
So I don't know what that means with regard to our normal CPA grant, this application and the final grant agreement. Whether you want to call it something other than a grant.
Right, and that's not my concern is after the approval, the contract between the city and Beacon or the Treehouse LLC that allows the city to give the funds to that organization and stipulates what it is and all of the terms. That's the document that I don't have any.
All right, but that's after city council approval, correct?
That's after city council approval.
I am in need of Mark's opinion on this whole process to convince, the CPA needs it to say yes, but I need to convince the council, the city attorney's looked at this, gonna be good. We're gonna get a new agreement that has to be, dot all the i's, cross all the t's later after the city council approves it. But before that,
Sorry.
go ahead.
One other thought, I think what you described would work fine for us. One other thought as well is, would you be able to vote tonight to provide the funds with the determination between grant and loan to be decided, by the staff and city attorney before it goes to the city council?
In other words, you want the city to decide if they want to do a loan agreement or not? I don't recommend that. I think it's our decision.
I think
Because I think it works better for you. It sounds like it works much better for you to get the loan. And it's typical, Jessica. It's typical.
Well, I think what she's asking is for us to take a vote on the $200,000, regardless of whether it's granted as a grant or a loan, and that we're okay with the dollar amount and to be going towards this project. And that we could at least take that vote. But if the committee's not comfortable and they want to know which avenue it's going to go, then we wait a month.
And if it's going to cost more to the city to do the loan.
It's not going to cost any more to the city, is it? Except for the opinion of the city attorney.
That's it.
And we're going to have to get that.
Right.
Well, here's the thing we could do. We could vote tonight, a tentative approval of the 200,000 pending the city attorney's. What I'd like you to do is decide if you want to go with a loan or not. I think it's better for them to do the loan. I'm going to recommend that as chairperson, but also as a member. However, we could say, well, let's wait and see. But if we recommend the loan, we need the city attorney to jump in here before the April meeting. Okay?
Yeah.
So we can say 200,000 tentative on city attorney opinion. And he may say, this doesn't look good. I don't, just the worst case scenario. Then we go back to the grant in April. Does that make sense?
Logical.
That would be
And anybody that can help Jamie on this, Courtney, Jess, if you can help Jamie on this for what we're asking the city attorney to do, just in the beginning. I know there's a lot of details after the fact. But if we're going to sell this to the city council, I've got to be able to say, and to the CPA committee, city attorneys looked at this, this is a normal thing. And anything you can provide that's an example like you talked about helps. But this is precedent setting in a sense. We've not done this.
Right.
And it sounds like it's something affordable housing people do a lot, right, Jess?
We do. I mean, in our projects, we've taken it as a grant and then converted it into a sponsor loan so that the sponsor, Valley, collects all of the different foundation, the grants, everything, compiles it into one document, and we loan that into the deal. And that's one way to do it. They need to do it a different way for their deal. So I think we should try to make that work if we can, because that's what's going to work best for them and their numbers. Construction pricing is through the roof. So I think whatever we can do to help them keep their deal structure the way that they're framing it, I think we should do that.
I'm happy to do that. We can take a vote tonight. We're not approving it finally. We could say, all right, this is falling, it could fall through in April, but that'll be a final approval. But I think this will give Jamie and anything you can give Jamie with regard to samples you talked about and explaining it so that tax credits, nonprofit, profit, all that stuff. Okay, Courtney? I'm looking at you on the screen. And I know here's in you. We have screen in here and your face is on it. So.
That sounds great. We'll do.
Scott.
This is this is not connected to that as much, but Dan, can you scroll down to like page 2? When I was reviewing this, I had one thing pop out of me that I didn't, no, keep going. Yeah, keep going a little bit. I think it's like the second page once we get to here. So there.
Go up a little bit.
Nope. You can zoom in if you want a little bit.
Right.
So Courtney, you can see this, right?
I can, yeah.
Sorry. So I was reading through this and I just wanted to understand, there's one thing that popped out of me. Under affordability, it says 55 units, 91% are affordable rental housing. But then underneath that, it says age restrictions, 48 units, 33%. So I wanted to understand why is
at age 55 and over?
Well, why are 48 units 33% when then 7 more units is 91%?
Yeah, that isn't. You caught an error. That 33% should be 80%.
That is true. 48 to 55, that's a jump. 33 to 91.
It should say 80%. That is a mistake. I don't know where that number came from.
Math teacher.
No, I do not want to teach math. So wait, which one's wrong? Yeah, right.
The 33% should be 80%. It's 48 out of the 60 units are age restricted. It's kind of independent from the affordability numbers.
And 8 or 6.
But that's 80%. That should be 80%.
Yes.
Okay.
This number here, see my cursor, should be 80.
Got it. So yeah, we should fix that.
Well, okay. If we're submitting this to the city council, then that should be changed. Because then we'll have to answer the same question.
Yeah.
Because Tom Peak is a math genius. I mean, anyway.
All right. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the biggest thing for me in all this isn't the loan or the grant. It's $26 million.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of money. I mean, I know you're doing energy retrofits. Are you redoing all of the energy in each home too? I mean, in each unit, I mean, new HVAC, whatever you use?
Yep. Every building, every unit gets a new mini split a heat source, air source heat pump. It's like a Mitsubishi mini split that you see. It might be a different company.
I have them. I know they're fantastic.
Yeah, it might be different.
They don't work under 10 degrees, so you have to have some other source of heat.
Well, so these they'll be the hyper heat that go down to 14 degrees, but we are making this a very, very airtight building, which means that it retains its temperature for a much longer period of time. So even if the power goes out, people can stay comfortable and safe for some time.
Okay.
So can I ask, and I'm sorry, since we're on that subject, so I noticed on there, it says you're going to go solar too. Are you adding solar to the houses also?
So we're adding solar to the roof of the community building. We wanted to add more than that, but the orientation of the buildings, the south-facing roofs are small and most of them are shaded by trees. There's also an issue because of the way that their meters are. We couldn't actually get solar done on all the roofs. It's a kind of little oddity with the solar program. So it will go in the community building.
Okay, so along the lines of that, so basically you're getting rid of places that are being heated with gas and going to electric. Isn't that more expensive? I mean, I'm like old school. Get electric is usually more expensive than gas.
It is. It does. It does increase slightly, but there are utility allowances that the residents have that kind of account for it. We're looking at what the utility allowances that they get and how much it will cost, and it kind of still fits in the realm. But also by making the buildings more energy efficient, you minimize the electric use. So really, people that are putting heat pumps in a building are not getting the energy efficiency that an electrification is not really as worth it. But when you make it in conjunction with the type building, it reduces the use and makes it a little bit more than gas, but very minimal.
So, but if you left it at gas, would it not decrease even further? It's not my project. I'm not trying.
Yeah. It would, but part of the goal here is to be consistent with statewide goals to get off of fossil fuels. And so a lot of the other sources that we have around energy efficiency, we would not, I mean, we did this actually before a lot of those sources existed, but now they've come up with some great resources that we'll be able to use because that's where we're heading.
There's a solar field right near Treehouse. Too bad you can't, because they get there.
Yeah.
Long wires.
Okay. Which one of these is the community building? I'm just curious, seeing this?
How big is it, you said?
Which one is the community building?
Oh.
What number?
Let me get oriented. I can't, could you zoom out a little? That's the entry. Okay, so go to the left or go up. Or maybe I'm disoriented here.
Is this the entrance here?
No, it's if you,
It's number 3, building 3.
There's two.
Here's two.
keep scrolling down, Dan.
Right here?
5, 6.
Three.
3.
Yeah.
The orange circle.
Yeah.
Wow. It would
Maybe
seem that these other buildings are bigger and they could get more solar, but I don't know. It's your project, okay.
Or yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm oriented.
That's an 3, isn't it? That's an accessible 5-bedroom building.
Yeah, that's why.
It's a community center, but it doesn't have a building outline underneath.
Oh no, it's 1. It's number 1.
Right here, but there's no building. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
it didn't show up on that scan.
all right. Well, I have no more questions. I think we can tentatively approve the 200,000 as a loan agreement if we want to make that motion.
A motion to approve $200,000 with the conditions discussed.
Conditions being a city attorney review. And to be determined in April.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
You have something?
No, I mean, are we really vote, like, does this vote actually, what does this vote accomplish? Because we're gonna re-vote on it again, right?
It accomplishes the fact that we want to do the loan. We want to look at the loan. And they like to hear, I could say this, we're kind of committing to this 200,000. It's either going to be a loan or a grant.
Right.
Right? Everybody agree with that?
That's what I thought.
Okay. So we're doing it as a loan now, but we're committing to it, whether it's a loan or a grant. Final vote will be, okay, it's a loan.
Okay.
Or okay,
Right.
we have to do it correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank
Any
you.
information you and Jess can give Jamie?
Who seconded the motion?
Me.
Any information, send it right along to Jamie so she can work on it next week.
Absolutely.
And
Well, yeah.
City attorney, he's a little busy with land takings. Oh, we have all kinds of stuff going to him. Yes,
Okay.
Amy. All right, thank
I'll
you.
keep that over. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the other thing on the agenda is solely me, wanting to put 750,000 of our funds into either put it into the affordable housing line, making this 866,690, or creating a different account, which is a reserved for housing account. What's the difference? If we put it into the affordable housing account, it cannot come out unless it's for an affordable housing project. So it commits CPA now until that's money spent to use it for affordable housing. I'm a big affordable housing thing. I just listened to 2 developers, and that's just the schools. One of them wants $1 million. The other one probably asked us for something in that neighborhood. There's 2 projects. There's this one, Beacon, and there's 2 projects coming our way from Treehouse and Main Street that might also ask for. So I wanted to show the CPA's commitment to affordable housing. Now I'm thinking, and I thought about this more after conversations with Jamie, that the better way to go. Let me clarify. We're not voting on this tonight. I'm giving you something to think about.
Okay.
The better way to go is to do an account for affordable housing, and that way you can move it out. Some CPA committee next year, the year after. We don't have any, we have this big pool project we have to do, and we don't have any CPA affordable housing in front of us, and we still have 200,000 in that account. Let's move it. You can't do that if you put it in the affordable housing account. So I wanted to say that I'm inclined, if we create the account, the city council approves it, it just moves money from the 1.6, Jamie, so we have 1.6 here.
Yeah.
And that's in the undesignated fund. So it'll be a little bit under 1,900,000 left in the account. Again, if we put it into the an account for housing, whatever we create, a reserve for housing, and something big comes up, we can make a decision. So that's where my head is right now.
Okay.
And why do we want to do this? The city has a lot of affordable housing coming our way. I want the city council, the mayor thought it was a great idea, and any project developers to know we care about affordable housing. It's big for me.
Okay.
And leaving, I'm sorry about that, but I do want to put that down as something I'd like to see. But I want to give the committee more flexibility, so I'm happy to put it into a housing account. Everybody think that's something to think about? Okay.
Can we just create an account like that? Is that?
Well, we did it for OTH, Reserve City Account.
Right, I mean, so
We did it for city hall, for Old Town Hall.
We
Yeah,
need- we
that's
need
right.
a-
Oh, OTH. I was like, you better
Some math.
Yeah, I guess so.
So in order to.
It's the exact same thing.
In order to create a project account, we need a project and a budget. And,
Do we need that?
yeah, I mean, the budget is just $750,000 for affordable housing. I mean, it's not a complicated budget, but there needs
Well,
to, there needs to be something for the city council to review and something for the auditors, and there needs to be some sort of trail, and that comes out of the CPA law. So.
All right, so if we could do this, we create some kind of a budget, we create some kind of a document, I'm happy to help you with that. Goes to city council, they approve it, that's when the account is created because the city council approved it.
Correct, and then we prepared like a project, like any of the other projects.
Well, the
we
Old
have.
Town Hall Reserve for City Match, they had all their budget, so I see what she's saying. The budget is $750,000 for affordable housing projects. So what?
Could we, if it has to be approved by city council to get that account?
It has to be approved no matter what we do.
Well, either way, it has.
No, but what my question is, because I like what you're saying, Dan, like it, for political purposes, it's good to signal like, hey, this is something we believe in. But I mean, we maintain the flexibility if for some reason something, the pool, whatever.
Disastrous comes along.
So,
Or over the years, nobody's used the money, I don't know.
Right.
well, and that has happened with affordable, I mean, and I want
I
affordable
don't
housing
think
too.
it's gonna happen. There's so much in the queue right
Yeah,
now.
which is.
Well, that's why I wanted
Well-
750 in there.
That's not nearly enough,
Yeah.
but it's a great start, and I think it's fantastic
Right,
to set that aside and show the city's commitment.
Correct.
But that could be used up in one project.
Yes.
I understand that, and we have, the one project we talked about the other day, if they get selected, they want $1 million, but that might be over a couple of years.
Okay.
The other thing I have to say, and I'll say
Wait,
this.
can I ask my question? Sorry, I was. in the
Oh, I
middle of
thought you were
asking. No, so my question was, we're talking about, so if you to make an account that needs to be approved by city council, would then city council need to approve if we said, okay, we actually want to put that somewhere, like if we're talking about maintaining
When
flexibility.
you move money, you have to have city council.
So so we're not quite as flexible as we would be without. I mean, there is a little loss of flexibility in creating it, in that we would have, if we said we want to, the pool comes up, we would then have to, and we don't have whatever the money situation is, we would then actually have to go to city council to move that money back.
So you can,
I would think.
the mayor can close a project account, or the whatever entity that's managing those funds can say, we're done with the project and we can
Okay.
close it.
Well, we are the
So-
entity.
So, yeah, so you could say, we want to close this account, you close the account, it goes back to
Well, let
the
me say this.
undesignated. But
We go to the
if you
city.
want to move that from a project account to another project account, then we do the intra-departmental transfer.
Which is
that we
what we're
did
doing
from
now.
Old Town
Okay.
Hall to move funds from the retained city match account to their project account without going back to whatever undesignated.
We're doing it
So for that, city council doesn't need to.
No, so they do need that. That's where city council would be involved, is to make an
The
interdepartmental
city council's
transfer.
involved for everything, Scott. Interdepartment is because we are a section of the budget. The CPA is a section of the budget. Every one of our accounts is like a department. So when the police department wants to give money to the fire department, that'll never happen. But if they did that, that would be called an interdepartment transfer. Because public safety is a section of the budget. General government's a section of the budget. Planning wants to give money to the mayor's office or something. That's an interdepartment. Our accounts are interdepartment transfers. So when we want to transfer, in this case, undesignated funds into this new account, that's an intra-department transfer. City council has to approve it. So to create the account, city council has to approve it. Now, if a project comes along and it needs $500,000 of our affordable housing money, we would take it out of that and the other, like how Jamie always splits it up on the applications where the money's coming from. We could take it out of that account immediately because it's designated for housing. But if we wanted to use that money because we have suddenly need a pool repair, I imagine we'd have to do
We have to close the account.
either close the account or do an interdepartment transfer before we can use it
Except,
again.
I imagine we'll have some sort of agreement stating what that account can be used for.
Right.
And so it'll say it can only be used for housing. We want to be able to transfer from that account to,
And that's assuming we have no other money. I mean, let's face it,
Right.
there's still gonna be almost $1 million in there.
So my only concern with doing it in that approach and not just putting it into the affordable housing designated fund that we already have is understanding that affordable housing projects can take anywhere from 5 to 7 years to complete. So from site control to people actually moving in can take 7 years.
Okay,
So, you know, what's the trigger to say, hey, there's nothing happening in affordable housing, let's take it out of this account and move it over to something else? When things could be in the works behind the scenes and you're just not aware of what's happening behind the scenes on any of these projects that are happening. So between the Tasty Top site, the Main Street site, the schools, Treehouse, there's another project that Valley is potentially working on. That's, 5 projects that are in the works.
and that
But
could be $2 billion, $3 billion.
And that could take many, many years to come to fruition by the time somebody might need that commitment. So I just want people to be cognizant of that, of like, what's the trigger that says, hey, this money is not being used? The money there could be a request coming. You're just kind of not in the, in the.
So if we put it in
know.
that, what you're saying is, and now you're getting me to rethink it, the affordable housing account, it can't be used for anything else.
It
We
can't
can
be used
never
for anything.
transfer it out.
Right.
It
And
stays
if-
there.
If that truly is your commitment to affordable housing, then put it into the account where it can only be used for affordable housing. I understand the want and the need to have flexibility in case there's an emergency.
Right.
But you also need to understand that affordable housing projects take a really long time. So,
Good point.
so just putting that out for food for
And
thought.
just
My experience working at anything to do with the city, everything takes a really long time. Everything.
It does with regard to construction and everything.
Anything you.
Well,
do with
because
the
government
city,
contracts take forever. I mean,
Projects, I'm aware of the Park and Rec, I didn't want to go down the road of what we were waiting for.
well, and I bring up the pool because I know that's coming, but we still have other money.
So why don't you cut it, say you get 500, instead of getting 750, get 500,000 and put it directly into the account. You know you got 250 coming out.
I brought this up for you guys to think about it.
Yeah.
We're gonna vote on it next month.
Okay.
We're gonna vote on it next month. That's a good point.
Take
That's
500, put
compromise.
it in there, that's gonna get spent.
Six,
It's gonna
And
be
that shows a commitment, you're saying we're gonna have $1 million to affordable housing.
Yep.
And in the next month, we're probably gonna say, look it, we're giving you 200 grand right after that.
I guess just to respond, I mean, because I agree with everything you're saying. I guess the other thing to think about with that is that, to your point that we don't know what's going on with the board, like all these projects could be coming down the pipeline. There could be historic preservation projects
Absolutely.
that we don't know. And I think we've been blessed as a committee where we've really never been short of funds for the amount of things that we've had, at least not in the time I've been involved.
Yeah, be careful.
You-
Now it's coming.
No.
You just mess it up.
Well, no, I mean, but I think what Jess is saying is it's gonna be messed up. And I think that does create a little bit of a paradigm shift in how we look at these things. And I think one thing we've done well is that we've taken each project on its face as the project and then said, okay, what is the impact going to be with our overall budget? And pretty much all the time we say, we're able to do this with what we have. And I think we might be entering a time where that's not going to be the case. And so,
Especially for these projects come up.
yeah.
Everything is
Scary.
expensive.
And so that I think we need to, so while there is a lot seemingly in the pipeline of affordable housing, there also could be things we know with historic preservation, with open space, recreation. So I guess to me, I would still like to maintain flexibility to hear projects when they come. And I think actually the other thing that should be put out there to the minutes, but also to the general public, if you're thinking about an application, let us know, right? Like we've had the people come and say, this is something we don't have an application yet. This is something we're thinking about. And that helps us look at that budget long-term too.
Let's not forget we have the ability to bond. So if there is something that becomes really huge, we have that ability
The what?
to bond.
The
It's
CPA,
this, yes.
Oh, yeah.
we just
We're
did
bonding
it.
for
We just did it
CPA. City.
for OTH.
There you
So-
go. Now it's on.
Now I'm on
Math
acronyms.
guy.
Yeah. You like that, DR?
The Jimmy Kimmel of the committee.
So, if we really get into a position where there is an emergency, there is a need for $1 million for a pool.
Right,
The only
Old
thing,
Town Hall is not the only project in this town that can be bonded.
right.
no, yeah. It's a huge, it's an $8 million
That's
project.
like taking loans out. Don't you kind of restrict, it's.
You then restrict what's available this year because you're paying your debt service for the other projects. But there are other communities out there, and I'll note Amherst because I just went through their CPA process, is they've got multiple projects bonded in any given year.
Okay.
From
Multiple.
CPA?
Yes,
Affordable housing multiple? Or-
lots of them. It's not just affordable housing. They've got probably 6, 7 projects currently
I'm
bonded.
not a
In
big fan of
open
bonding
space,
because it
whatever.
costs more,
And
but
they
it
only
is,
do
it
one
is a cost.
application cycle a year.
They only do one application cycle a year.
CPA.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
so everybody applies all at once and they're able to say, we have
This amount of
we have
money.
$1 million that we can spend and we have $20 million worth of project requests and here's
And
how.
we have this for our debt service
And
for
here's how we-
bonding, so this is what's reserved for bonding, this is what's left. You guys want, this amount of money, we'll give you
I
half
don't
of
know if
that.
I like that once a year. Ooh.
Well, I didn't see-
I'm just saying, there's other ways to think about it, and so, again, if there's an emergency situation, I just don't want us to forget that we have that ability to do
The
that.
thing I'm
if we
gonna
need it.
say, thinking about what Jess said and what, the 500,000 idea, I like that. And I'll say why. The account already exists.
Right,
We don't have to create it.
correct.
And if it's 500,000, there's more than $1 million now in the kitty for other projects. And that's just this year.
Mhm.
Right.
If we take the $200,000 out, it'll probably happen before we get this approval for that. And that'll happen separately. There's gonna be there's gonna be 500,000 in affordable housing, because Jamie will probably take the 116 that's in there out, and then some undesignated money to pay for the 200,000.
Yeah, because this wouldn't happen, this transfer would not happen in time for.
To cover that.
For Beacon, so the 750, it would be 750 plus 200,000 for Beacon. In this case, it'd be 500,000 plus 200,000 for Beacon.
Yeah, the 200,000 for Beacon won't be coming out of the 500,000 is what I'm saying. So what's gonna be in there is 500,000 after the Beacon. And I like that better because I know what it means to create accounts, there's the auditor and all this stuff. And it is a major commitment. It's not just a commitment, it's a major commitment because we're putting it where it can only be used for affordable housing. So That's where I was this morning, and then I switched my mind. Now I'm thinking, so Scott, I'm kind of on the side of that right now. But again, think about it,
Okay.
okay?
One last thing. My recollection with Old Town Hall was that originally we actually just did like a line, like we didn't actually create anything new. We just put it in.
We had to create,
Didn't we?
it was back in Melissa's time, we created the
Didn't
old
we do
town hall.
something
We-
first
we
though?
had
Like,
we were using earmarks on.
yeah, didn't we just earmark it on this?
On that, and that was only as good as me remembering to update,
Yeah, right.
you know, which is.
But what it did do,
It was eventually, City Space came and said, we really would like the city to show a commitment and
We
not
created the
just,
account, which
Right.
creates the commitment.
not just tracking it on this, like,
Right.
but what we did do, it did signal something to, in the minutes to us, like, hey, let's keep that there, thinking about it without, I mean, it's just another mechanism. I guess that's the mechanism that would send a political message potentially, but would maintain the greatest.
But
lesson
it doesn't,
possible.
it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It means the political thing, but it doesn't mean anything dollars wise. An account is dollars, and the city council gets involved. We do an earmark, we write a letter of commitment. They don't get involved. It's just us. I would rather the city council hear from us. Hey, we're putting that $500,000 in there. We mean business. And they have to approve it. So we see, and I know they'll approve it. I know the housing is a big thing. And we're about to have this major debate on which development we're gonna do. We have two great developments, by the way, city for the housing, and they're gonna need 1,500,000 right away. So this may be gone by the end of the year.
Right.
Who knows? But it's a commitment, and I'd like to see us do it only because it makes me feel good. I'm sorry. That I accomplished something.
Well, I think that's the driving factor.
DR says do it.
It's your retirement present.
Yeah, well, I have lots of it.
Wow. How about that retirement present?
It's better than a gold watch.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all. I don't have anything else. We're meeting next, let me stop.
April.
April 20th.
April 20th.
It'll be summer by then.
Isn't that Earth Day?
Yeah.
It's another school vacation.
Okay, then I'll take a
Do you
motion
wanna-
to.
do you wanna try to
No, I don't know. Does that matter to you?
What?
You guys have a lot of school vacations.
Yeah, what's going
Oh,
on?
we
The
don't
teachers
work.
ever-
Yeah,
Come
seriously,
on.
these teachers. Well, what?
Is that a problem?
You may not be.
I,
Hard telling, not knowing.
yeah, we don't know. Well, I hope I'll be here.
I don't want to change that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Because, and I gotta find out from Greg and who else is missing tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 people, Greg and.
Joe McCoy.
Joe. I came in and I expected him to be here, but he wasn't. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna second.
Jay, you're slow.
I beat him.
That is beat up this time. We just.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That's because often Jay does the motions, I make the motion to do the dollars in this language, and this is like motion to adjourn, I can do that.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.